Hello, everybody. Today we're going to go over how to create a cluster in Redshift. So you're going to want to, the prerequisite here is to have an AWS account created. Once you have that established, if you just go into your general console here and you can go to services and just type in Redshift. And then you can go to clusters here and you'd go to create cluster. Today we're just going to create the most basic cluster as possible. So you have a couple options here. They don't even show, it doesn't look like they have the DS anymore, but yes, they do right there. So you have the RA3, the DC2, or the DS2. You're going to either want to choose the RA3 or the DC2. The DS2 is kind of like it says legacy. So what this is more before, if you wanted more of a storage kind of cluster, right? You're data heavy, you'd go with the DS2. If you wanted more compute, you'd go with the DC2. DC2 also has SSD storage. The RA3 kind of separates it out. So you kind of, it automatically scales up as far as space goes. There's a separate cost for the compute and the space. The storage is relatively cheap for the RA3, but we're just going to go with the most basic DC2 large, which is 25 cents a node per hour. Typically, you would do 2 nodes. So we'll keep that default, the number of nodes. If you were going to be using your cluster for consistently for a period of a year or so, then you could do reserve nodes. I'm just going to stick with on demand. So then you would name the database that initially gets created. We could just keep it as dev and keep the default port. You also, Redshift also creates a master user that has rights to create other databases and such. So you specify the username here, and you could specify some kind of password. Right. Cluster permissions, you would want to have a role here for your Redshift cluster. This role will be assumed by Redshift to kind of maybe load data from S3, etc. There's also additional configurations. This is set to use defaults, so we'll stick with that, but you could also have your Redshift cluster in a specific VPC and have a specific security group, and we could go over this in a different video, but having it in a specific VPC, say if you have other people who want to access this Redshift cluster, maybe you could spin up an EC2 instance within the same security group, and then can kind of SSH tunnel through that EC2 instance. For now, we'll just keep this as default and then just go to create cluster. So I'm just going to pause the recording and just wait for this cluster to finish creating. Okay, the Redshift cluster is up and running now. So we're not going to go into connecting to this Redshift cluster remotely, but there is an editor in Redshift. So if you go to the left here and click on the editor, we're going to create a new, what did we call our database name? I think dev. Just connect to database. All right, now that we're connected, go to public here. In the documentation, they give us a little example. We could just create a table here, shoes. If we run this, As you see, it creates shoes in this public schema. So now we have this shoes table. We can insert some values here. So we would have, you see we made both these varchar with 10 characters. Insert into table shoes. We're going to insert these values: loafers, brown, sandals, black. So if we run that, all right, that works. So now if we do select all from shoes, we should see those two fields in the table here. All right, and you see shoe type loafers, color brown, shoe type sandals, color black. That's it for this video. Thank you.